Most people taste a vegetable once, decide they hate it, and never go near it again. Here's the thing, though. A lot of the worst-tasting vegetables out there aren't bad vegetables at all. They're badly grown, badly timed, or badly cooked. Same crop, handled differently, tastes like a completely different food. That mix-up trips up more gardeners and cooks than you'd think. Today, we're ranking the 8 worst-tasting vegetables and breaking down why they end up bitter, mushy, or just plain unpleasant. One of these tastes almost nothing like itself once you fix a single mistake nearly everyone makes. Stick around for that one. Quick note before we dive in. If you want more of this kind of growing and flavor breakdown, subscribe to Glove Gardener. We dig into the stuff other channels skip past. Let's get into it. Asterisk number 8. Brussels sprouts. Asterisk most people picture mushy, bitter little cabbages and immediately lose interest. Fair enough, given the history. Older Brussels sprout varieties carried high levels of glucosinolates, the sulfur compounds behind that harsh bite, and modern breeding has cut that way down. Timing matters too. Sprouts picked before a frost taste sharper than ones harvested after a light freeze, since cold pushes the plant to convert some of those bitter compounds into sugar. There's also a cooking problem. School cafeterias boiled sprouts soft for decades, which is the worst possible method for them. Roast them hot and fast instead, and you get something close to a different vegetable. So if your last Brussels sprout memory is gray and boiled, you were judging the method, not the plant. Wait for that first frost before harvesting, then roast at high heat. Cutting the sprouts in half first helps too. More surface area means more caramelizing and less bitterness. Asterisks number 7. Bitter melon. Asterisks, this one earns its name. No argument there. The bitterness comes from momorticin, compound that builds up the longer the fruit ripens on the vine. Pick it young and pale green, and you get noticeably less of it than the deep orange fully mature fruit. Cooks in Chinese, Indian, and Filipino kitchens, where bitter melon is a regular ingredient rather than a curiosity, almost never serve it raw. Salting, soaking, or blanching pulls a lot of that bitterness out before the pan ever gets hot. People who actually cook with this vegetable regularly treat the bitterness as something to manage, not something to just endure. Buy or harvest it pale green and firm. Salt the sliced flesh. Let it sit 20 minutes. Rinse, then cook. And pair it with something fatty. Eggs or pork work well, since fat rounds out bitterness better than cooking the melon alone ever will. Asterisks, okra. Asterisks, slimy reputation, and honestly, not an undeserved one. That sliminess is mucilage, a compound the plant produces naturally, and it builds up the longer okra sits after harvest or the more it gets cut and exposed to moisture. Dry, high-heat cooking, roasting, frying breaks the mucilage down fast. Boiling or steaming barely touches it, which is exactly why boiled okra has such a bad reputation. Cajun and Southern cooks rarely boil okra on its own. They roast it, fry it, or simmer it slowly into a tomato-based stew, where the mucilage actually thickens the dish instead of fighting it. If boiling was your introduction to okra, you got the one method designed to maximize the texture people hate most. Cook it hot and dry in a single layer and skip the boiling altogether. One more thing, don't wash it until you're about to cook it and dry it thoroughly first. Wet okra hits the pan and releases even more mucilage. Asterisk number 5. Turnips. Left in the ground too long, turnips develop a sharp, almost soapy bitterness, and that's usually the only version people remember. Like other mustard family root vegetables, they're loaded with glucosinolates that build up as the root grows larger and older. A turnip, the size of a golf ball to a tennis ball, tastes sweet and mild. Let it grow to softball size, and you also get a fibrous, cork-like texture on top of the bitterness. Baby turnips at a farmer's market and the giant waxed ones forgotten in a grocery bin are the same vegetable, harvested at completely different points. If a big grocery store turnip is all you've tried, you've never had this vegetable at its best. Harvest young before they outgrow a tennis ball, and don't let them sit in warm soil after they mature. Roast them with the greens still attached and a little olive oil. The greens crisp, the roots caramelize, and the bitterness mostly disappears. Number 4. Eggplant. Asterisk, bitter and oil absorbent, that's the reputation, and a single bad experience tends to end the relationship. The bitterness comes from solanine and related compounds that build up as the fruit ages on the plant or in storage. Bigger eggplants with visible seeds skew more bitter than younger ones with few or none. Add in spongy flesh that soaks up oil the second it hits a dry pan, and you've got a recipe for greasy, bitter eggplant. The fix most home cooks skip: salt it first. Salting draws out moisture and some of the bitter compounds before the eggplant ever touches oil. If you've had eggplant that was bitter and oily at once, that's almost always the missing step. Pick smaller, firmer eggplants with fewer visible seeds. Salt sliced eggplant for 20 to 30 minutes before cooking, and roast it on a wire rack instead of frying in a pan. The oil drips away instead of soaking in. Asterisks: a radish picked too late tastes like spicy wood, and that's the version most people walk away remembering. Radishes are mustard family too, and their peppery bite comes from glucosinolates that ramp up sharply as the root grows past its prime. Even a week or two too long in the ground turns mild and crisp into harsh and hollow. Market growers harvest on a tight schedule, often pulling radishes within days of full size, because the flavor window closes fast. A grocery store bin doesn't tell you a harvest date, so you genuinely have no idea how far past prime that radish was. Pull them as soon as the shoulders push up out of the soil. Don't let them sit in the garden waiting on something else to be ready. And if one does turn out too sharp, slice it thin and quick pickle it in vinegar and sugar. The acid mellows the bite considerably. Asterisk number 2, kale. Asterisk raw kale gets eaten out of obligation, not enjoyment for most people. Some of that's timing. Summer-grown kale carries more bitter compounds and a tougher cell structure than kale grown through cooler fall weather, since cold triggers the same sugar conversion process that softens Brussels sprouts. Some of it's prep. Unmassaged raw kale stays tough and fibrous, and that texture makes the bitterness land harder with every bite. Kale salads that people actually enjoy almost always involve massaging the leaves with oil, salt, or an acidic dressing, physically breaking down the cell walls until the texture softens. A dry, unmassaged pile of raw leaves at a salad bar is kale working against you. Grow or buy kale that's been through at least one light frost, and massage raw leaves with oil and a pinch of salt for 2 full minutes before eating. Or skip raw entirely and bake it into chips at low temperature. The bitterness turns into something closer to a savory crunch. Asterisk number 1, bitter cucumbers. A perfectly normal-looking cucumber that tastes like pure bitterness from the first bite catches almost everyone off guard. The culprit is cucurbitain, a defense compound the plant produces, concentrated near the stem end and just under the skin. Heat stress, drought stress, and inconsistent watering all spike production, which is why a cucumber grown through a hot, dry stretch can turn shockingly bitter, while one grown in steady conditions tastes completely normal. In rare cases, cucurbitacin can climb high enough to cause real stomach upset, not just a bad taste. This is why commercial growers watch irrigation so closely. One stressed batch can sour customers on an entire crop's reputation. A bitter cucumber for no obvious reason isn't a bad variety, it's a stressed plant defending itself. Water consistently and deeply rather than letting the soil dry out and then flooding it. Steady moisture is the single biggest factor here. If a cucumber does taste bitter, cut off the stem end and peel a strip of skin inward from there, since that's where the cucurbitain concentrates most. Putting it all together, Brussels sprouts and turnips taste better picked smaller, or, later in the cold, bitter melon and eggplant need salt and prep work most people skip. Okra needs heat, not water. Radishes need speed. Kale needs cold and a massage. Cucumbers need consistency, not neglect. None of these vegetables are actually bad. Most of them are just misunderstood, mistimed, or undercooked. This weekend, grab one vegetable on this list that you swore off years ago and give it one more shot, this time using the fix instead of the old method. Which one are you giving a second chance? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more of this, hit subscribe. Glove Gardener covers the plant secrets other channels never get into.